Hello, my wonderful little collections of bones. It's me, Glass Lotuses, your friendly and mildly eerie digital artist, writer, and cat lover. How are you doing? I hope your day has been full of chill. Since it's been really hot lately, we got our cat's fur shaved down, both for heat and for shedding reasons, and they love just lying around with their skin on the cool floor. I don't know about you, but I love cats. Cats aside, today I want to talk about arguably one of the most important gods, and one of the only ones that no longer exists within the world at all. Point blank. Like, she's gone. The others are kind of asleep, but she's like dead. The god of time also falls under the god of water, and her name is a hint as to why. So, let's get into it. Clepsydra is the god of time and prophecies. She has 3 pairs of eyes. One sees the present, one sees the past, and one sees different possible futures. She has been kicked out of multiple pantheons because while she is very skilled at what she does, she has a penchant for drama. Most gods are not temporally omniscient. While some can be able to know all of past history, or know everything going on in the worlds they oversee simultaneously, most types of gods are unable to see the future, and very importantly, they cannot see their own futures. Clepsydra is a time god, specifically because she has this capacity. As the only god who can typically see the future within a pantheon, and whose power works on the other gods just as much as it does the mortal realm, she often leads pantheons down paths which are the most entertaining for her. She'll seldom lead them to complete destruction, but that doesn't necessarily mean things won't go very awry. Clepsydra has lived many lives, for she can bifurcate her future sight and play out all different paths based on alternate actions she might do. Thus, she can essentially mentally live as many paths she wishes, and then snap back to the present time she's in. While she spends a lot of time lost in thought about these futures, this does mean she often is easily bored when she knows actions will not lead to entertaining outcomes. She has never been a god to try to make the most optimal universe, because she can always escape before Altiora decides to collapse a failing one. There's no need for perfection if you can jump ship at the perfect time. She could easily play an integral role in a perfect universe, but she's seen that play out plenty of times mentally. In our current universe, Clepsydra entered the playing field and, of course, assisted with the development of the world. She was one of the first gods brought in after the primordial 6, as time is, of course, necessary for the progression of things. When interacting with mortals, usually she will give them divine premonitions. That gut feeling that you should walk to work instead of take the bus, and later you hear the bus drove off a bridge. That's the kind of thing Clepsydra and her spirits take care of. After a while, Clepsydra began to get bored of the mundane, repetitive nature of the pantheon. No one new was joining anymore, everything was stable, and she was going through the motions. So she decided to play a game. AS9, the god of order, was rather paranoid when it came to weavers. In life, she was a robot handling precious materials, and still had many of her original habits and thoughts, and was concerned that weavers would destroy that which she attempted to build. She didn't trust Altiora, but knew that she must work within her system. But even more so, she didn't trust Mercy, the newcomer to the system who was a weaver of lesser power than the god of gods. Contra often had to calm AS9's worries, and was one of the few people who could talk the robot down from the anxious edge she often walked. It was a delicate balance that Clepsydra thought would be extremely fun to tip out of whack. As most of the gods did not enjoy AS9's personality, she had few friends within the pantheon. Not that AS9 particularly felt she needed them, but it meant that few people had her ear. Clepsydra casually began spending more time with the god of order, and since Clepsydra was in AS9's side of the pantheon, that wasn't necessarily all that strange. Contra was mildly suspicious though, but not suspicious enough. Clepsydra fueled AS9's paranoia about Mercy, and convinced AS9 that Mercy didn't belong within the pantheon and that he should be taken out. But how do you get rid of a god? How do you get rid of a weaver? Gods could only be removed from pantheons by Altiora unless they somehow fell out of the system altogether. But you see, Clepsydra knew how to do exactly that, and it was far too simple for a structural god like AS9 or Contra to just tear a hole. Was it a good plan? Not at all. But it was what was in AS9's head. AS9 is a calculating god, but she did not calculate that a god of time would actively try to destroy the pantheon in which they dwell. Statistically, why would a god do that? Statistically, Clepsydra should be right, as an omniscient, eternal, and clearly not malicious god. The venom the snake-like god injected to AS9's mind rattled around for a while. Mercy was in Chaos's court, which didn't help him much either. As people in the world grew nicer to one another and more merciful, power shifted to the chaotic side of the pantheon. The other gods were pleased, people in the world were happy, but the shift allowed Clepsydra to poke at AS9 even more. Eventually, the god of order proceeded with the plan Clepsydra had laid before her, and with Mercy out of the way, there was a brief moment of silence before the gods of vengeance and cruelty realized what order had done, and all hell broke loose. I'll talk more about the War of the Gods in another video, but it was almost entirely for Clepsydra's entertainment that this pantheon collapsed. Before I talk about these drawings in particular, I want to mention why Clepsydra is in the water section of the pantheon. Clepsydra's name refers to a very old method of timekeeping, a water-based clock similar to an hourglass, but relying more on a steady flow of water to keep time as opposed to a flow of sand. The word for Clepsydra comes from the words for steal, like if you would think of the word kleptomania, as well as the word for water, a water thief, if you will. Going into this drawing, I knew I wanted her to be a snake-like creature. Why? Because I wanted her body to be able to form the shape of an infinity symbol. She is all-knowing and temporally eternal in a way, so I wanted her body and this first drawing to represent that. Additionally, there are many types of snakes which live in the water, and they tend to be rather dangerous. Similarly, of course, snakes do well in warm, sandy environments, like an hourglass is sandy. I wanted her hair to also be the color of sand to refer back to that. Similarly, I made her lips and tongue golden and snaky to represent the trickstery nature of hers, a golden tongue to convince others of her plots. Plus, it also matches the sand. I ended up making her purple, I believe because it just looked nice with the sandy color of her hair. While I gave her 6 eyes as mentioned before, I don't really like the design looking back. I will probably reconfigure them in the future, I just don't know how yet. Given that she's a snake and has scales, I also wanted to use that to mix with the sandy concept further, and make her look kind of sparkly. Then, since she's a snake and snakes are kind of just tubes, I didn't really feel the need to give her clothes. But you know what happened? TikTok thought she needed clothes, and took my video down for nudity. I appealed and it went back up, but I guess I get why. Overall, I like her design aside from her 6 eyes. I've only drawn her a few times, but I don't think I'll change her design too much when I do, aside from the eyes. So, what do you think of her? Thank you so much for listening to my ramblings. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're interested in learning more about this story, the world, and the characters within it, please like and subscribe. Good night.